It's a cassettes in front out here. Frantically trying to flip it.
Please stop talking.
Terrible sound quality.
This council public hearing to order. It is Wednesday, April 6th. The time is 6:33 p.m. The topic is plan development zoning overlay at the current northern termi of North 8th and 9th Street, 9 North Deer Island Road, North 8th Street LLC, Sean Clark. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our city planner.
Thank you, Mayor Scholl. This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for a plan development overlay. The subject property is identified in the county assessor map as lot 100 on map 5 North 1 West, section 33. The applicant is North 8th Street LLC. The owner is the same. Because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. First of all, does any member of the council wish to declare ex parte conflict of interest or bias in this matter? I don't see any. Second question, does anybody from the audience want to object to the ability of one of these counselors to make a fair decision? I don't see any. Okay, so generally the order of the proceedings will be as follows: required statements, as I'm doing right now, staff report, applicant's presentation, those in favor of the application, neutral testimony, those opposed, any rebuttal by the applicant, final questions, close of the record, deliberations, and decision. Following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to City Code and Oregon Revised Statute 197.763, Section 5. Following is a list of the substantive criteria for this decision. St. Helens Municipal Code 17.08.040. Those are the quasi judicial amendments and standards, as well as St. Helens Code 17148.060 in regards to plan developments. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described or other criteria in the plan, such as the comprehensive plan or land use regulations, such as that found in the development code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing, in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue, and precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So with this formalities out of the way, let's talk about what the heck this plan development overlay is. And the reason I start with that statement is this isn't an everyday thing. In fact, I'm 4 months shy of being here 15 years, and I've only seen one of these. That one was for the Forest Trail subdivision, one Rich Bailey had. And this map up here, the relationship between those two is we have a property loaded with wetlands. And the plan development overlay, as we'll talk about, is a tool to help the developer achieve an economic use of land despite having to work around those wetlands. So this is an overlay zone. And what this does, it amends the zoning map. So you have the underlying zoning. And then this is another layer that says, okay, well, you have these basic rules, but some of these rules you can play with to deal with situations like this. And I'll talk about those in a little bit. This is a much bigger property than we saw with the Forest Trail subdivision. It's just shy of 24 acres. It is undeveloped. There's been some suggestion that it was a quarry in the early years of St. Helens. In fact, I know the applicant tried to find some good evidence to convince the Army Corps that the wetlands were not quote unquote natural, but they were unsuccessful in doing so. The Planning Commission did review this and recommends approval. One thing to keep in mind is this is the overlay zone. This is not the subdivision itself. The subdivision goes to the Planning Commission and must appeal, and the Planning Commission actually approved the subdivision at their last meeting. Overlay stays with the property regardless of what happens with that subdivision. So let's say in a month, the applicants, man, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm gonna change careers. I'm not worried about development anymore. And then in a year or two, someone else comes in, they can still utilize that overlay zone to achieve those flexibilities. So there is a relationship with the development, but they are two separate factors. And so your decision tonight is simply to amend the overlay zone for those flexibilities. The reason I had this map up here, this was from the approved wetland delineation from the state. And if you can zoom out just a little bit, you can see that there's a lot of wetlands on the property. This is one of those cases where the city didn't have to be wetland bad people, because the significant wetlands to the city are the two on the east side, to the north and to the south. And those have the protection zone associated with them. And there's a little bit of impacts proposed, but not significant ones. If we were to look at the preliminary plat that the Planning Commission approved, you will see, so here's, understand the mass of the property. And then when you look at the preliminary plat, you'll understand the importance of the planned development. So just looking at it, you can see a vast portion of that property will remain in its more or less natural state. And the reason they ended up doing it this way is to minimize the impacts required from the agencies, not from the city. From, I think the Army Corps of Engineers was the biggest pain for them, but they can attest to who was. I didn't have to deal with that. Interestingly, in some of the earlier versions, so on the south side, you see 8th Street and 9th Street. 9th Street is the one with the huge cul-de-sac to it. Some of the earlier versions actually showed 8th Street going through there, so you had two parallel streets. And eventually they kind of had to chip it back. We have been talking with the applicant since at least 2017. So it's been, several years of discussion. I think it's a record of how many pre-application meetings we've had on this one than any other project. And when they first proposed, when they first were working out layouts, this whole plan development thing, wasn't even part of the picture. But because they had to bring it back as much as they did, staff actually recommended, well, at this point, you really got to go through a plan development. And if you had to use the typical lot sizes, and that's one of the things that the plan development lets you do, it lets you do away with the lot size and lot dimension. You would be trying to fit these puzzle pieces into awkward, confined spaces, and they wouldn't be able to get the 66 lots that you see here. The plan development lets you retain the density possible despite the wetlands. And if you kind of look at the area proposed not to be developed, you see the wetlands, but you see a lot of areas in between. So what do you do with that Swiss cheese? The Swiss cheese area, it gives you density that you can apply to the more buildable area. In this case, you have 66 lots. The density could allow close to 100. So they're not even approaching the maximum density possible here. The one standard that I should just reference for your own education that the plan development doesn't let you manipulate is lot coverage. And so a developer needs to be careful about creating lots too small because that lot coverage would really confine you to a tiny, tiny home. The zoning of the property is predominantly mobile home residential. There are very few properties in city limits with this zoning district. And that zoning resulted in a recommended condition from the planning commission, as recommended to them by staff, that any development utilizing this plan development overlay not preclude manufactured homes. It's a pretty low bar. So they can't have design standards or covenants that says heck no to manufactured homes. And the applicant did protest that earlier. This is, of course, another opportunity to do so because this is ultimately your decision. There's all the planning mumbo jumbo stuff we deal with that I won't get into unless you really want me to talk at length at that stuff. The planning commission did recommend approval unanimously with the condition that no development preclude manufactured homes. And let's see, let me show you the standards table in here. There. So if you just want an idea what the plan development can let you flex, this table is a good representation of it. So you can see that lot size, yep, lot width, lot depth. There's a lot of those things that you're able to manipulate. You can throw out the standards altogether or apply a lesser one. In this case, the applicant did choose a lesser standard that they felt could meet their needs. It's really that simple. There wasn't a lot of opposition at the planning commission on the plan development overlay. I'll go ahead and open it up for questions to me before we ask for testimony.
As I look at this overlay, has the fire department looked at getting in and out of this mess?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so we have the benefit of having a approved preliminary plat, so I can talk about that just to satisfy your intrigue. But remember, this is an overlay zone, so we wouldn't necessarily have to have a development proposal, but let's talk about it since we have it. So I can distribute Kathy. Go back to the plat that's proposed. And it's a good question, Steve. So the fire code gets excited when a subdivision, I think it's more than 40 lots or 20 or 40. There's a number where if there's only one access point, the homes need to be sprinkled. And you have 40 or so homes that are going to be accessed from the sole cul-de-sac. And so that's a fire code issue, but we made sure that the cul-de-sac at the end meets the fire department standards. The city's cul-de-sac standards are a little smaller, but don't accommodate fire apparatus. And since this is a above average cul-de-sac, we wanted to make sure that that end accommodated them. And by the way, this cul-de-sac does exceed our standards, and there was a subdivision variance as part of this that the planning commission approved to allow it.
If I see a fire at say lots number 24, 25, 26. Everybody below that is trapped, and this thing is a hole. I'm not even worried about getting an engine to turn around. I've got engines in the street which plug off everything. And it's a hole down there. I know in the winter, you get an icy thing, you're not gonna be able to get in and out of here, just on topography.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's the reason, for the sprinkling requirement in these kind of situations. To help compensate for that kind of issue. I think, many would agree that there's some imperfections about it. But this layout is not something that you are approving as a council.
And in this overlay, do we have to worry about traffic getting in and out of this on a normal day? We've got a lot of people here, and we have enough room to put 2 cars in each one of these lots.
Yes, each lot should be able to accommodate the minimum 2 spaces, 2 non-tandem spaces, as we've determined, per lot. And it was a large enough subdivision that it did require a traffic impact analysis. And the analysis showed there's no functional deficiency as a result of this. It did show that 9th Street will be night and day as far as traffic, because now it's a dead end and it's gonna open up into a much broader street. But the study was done and didn't show nightmarish conditions.
Getting nightmarish, getting onto Deer Island Road.
That's correct. Yeah, the intersections of 8th and Deer Island and 9th and Deer Island, in addition to a few others, were studied as part of that analysis.
The other thing is there is water in the lakes and ponds down there. It does not appear to be surface water. It seems to be underground water coming in. And if you look across Route 30, there's a lot of hydraulic source that's driving water into the ground. And I assume it's coming up into this quarry area. Was any work done on underground subterranean water coming into the area?
Subterranean water, I don't know if I can speak to that. The applicant's engineering team is here. They may be able to speak to
They
it.
did the surface water rain. I'm
Yes,
talking about, because looking at the amount of water in those ponds, that did not come in from the surface. That came in from other sources.
it's possible, but they are leaving the pond alone.
But the water is still coming in. I'm worried about opening that up, where the water is coming in from other sources, say on the other side of the railroad tracks, coming up onto these plots.
Yeah, I can't speak to the subterranean hydrology of it, but I know that generally it's part of a complex that ultimately reaches the Dalton Lake Basin.
Same.
And the sewer load on the pump station down by Dalton Lake.
Yes, so there is a sewer line that'll connect. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see several, about 4 lines that are parallel. Could you drag that down just a little bit? Perfect. So you see those parallel lines that extend to the upper right-hand corner of the site? That is the proposed location of a sewer line that's gonna connect to the pump station by Madrona Court that you speak of. And some neighbors did express concern about that pump station, but our engineering department looked at it and determined that there was capacity for this development. In fact, the timing of the wastewater master plan was good, because when that was going on, we could say, hey, well, we know about this development going on here, so it could be contemplated in the master plan's findings.
Okay, we have a number of plots here. We're gonna put
I
a,
gotta interject this because is this pertinent to the zoning?
yes,
overlay?
yeah,
No, I don't think it is. I'm asking,
Joe, would you find out what my question is before you make that judgment?
Councilor Topaz, I've listened to your 3 questions prior to, and they're not, and within the essence of time, they're not pertinent to the zoning overlay. You can ask these of staff at any point in time.
No, I can't, I'm restricted.
And we are getting off topic, we are getting off topic here, that we're talking about a zoning overlay right now. We're not talking about even the planned development, we're talking about a zoning overlay. It was very clear and specified at the beginning of this meeting. All I'm asking is please keep it on topic in the essence of time so we can move forward.
Yeah, let's,
We saw public comments to happen and everything else.
yeah, well, let's try to get to the public comments and then questions of interest, we can try to tackle those. So I'm assuming the council is good on the general questions before public testimony.
Yeah, I wanna hear the testimony.
All right, so the applicant, if you would like to talk, your chance.
Good evening, councilors and staff. My name is Andrew Neely with Lower Columbia Engineering. I'm Chase Berger, Lower Columbia Engineering. And Jacob did a great job of giving us a quick summary on the project. I'll just elaborate on a few of the points and some of the questions that have come up, not only this evening, but at the planning commission hearing. Well, first off, I'll give just a brief history of the project. Prior to our involvement, as Jacob alluded, there was a much denser development proposed. It would have involved much greater impacts to the on-site wetlands. And through a few different iterations and progression of this design process, this is a much more scaled back proposal, much less overall development, much less impact to the wetlands. There's some impact to the wetlands, but it's what was minimally required to provide access to the development and to be able to really use the property at all. And we have already been successfully through a joint permit application process with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Oregon Department of State Lands. That permit application has already been approved. And, so really this overlay zone is what allows this project to be feasible. And we've really tried to take a deliberate approach to minimizing the impacts, but also strike that balance to make it a feasible project. Some of the concerns that came up understandably from the public commission hearing, and they were pretty minimal. The primary message we heard was from residents on 8th and 9th Street that were really concerned primarily about the way we understood it, construction traffic. And someone brought up the great idea to look at a potential construction access route through the adjacent county property, basically along the southwestern corner of the. Mind if I turn the TV a little bit?
This should be fine.
Talking over here. Basically, the city shops, if you're familiar with this area, are located here, and then the county shops are located in this area adjacent to the Animal Control and Humane Society. And they did just receive some positive feedback from Mike Russell, the Public Works Director, that they're open to discussing a potential construction access that would help alleviate that concern of traffic coming through the residential area during construction purposes. So, we're making an effort there to alleviate some of the neighborhood. One thing, Steve, that I'll mention in relationship to your concern about the hydrology on the property, that was something that we did take a really close look at. There was a very extensive geotechnical study done that didn't go over and above the level of geotechnical exploration and hydrologic exploration that you would normally do. And the primary requirement for that on this project was actually for the opposite reason that you're bringing up the question, but really actually to make sure that we were going to be properly hydrating the wetlands that are going to remain. And we do have a small amount of created wetlands on the property to mitigate the impacts to the wetlands that are being minimally impacted. And so that was one of the primary concerns that the state and federal agencies had, was making sure that we would have adequate hydrology to ensure that those remaining wetlands would be healthy. And so we actually there was quite a bit of work done in assessing that hydrology, both surface and subsurface. There's quite a bit of water that actually comes onto the site through a couple of cores into this area that, we're having to manage. We have already done a stormwater analysis that takes all that into account, and not only from the standpoint of managing the runoff from the new streets, but also to ensure that those wetlands remain healthy. So to your question about the gradient of the streets and concerns with icy weather, that sort of thing, the current design has the street gradients limited to a maximum slope of 5%. So relatively speaking, that's pretty mild, even though when you go look at it now, it kind of looks like a big hole there. That's one of the major expenses that will be associated with these improvements will be to soften that approach. I mean, in development, to get that maximum slope of 5% so that we can meet the ADA standards for the walkways coming into the development. If you have any other questions for us, we'll do our best to answer those.
I'm not allowed, I'll get to you later.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, appreciate it.
Is there anybody else who wants to talk about this at all?
Bunch of mayor contestants here.
Okay. So we don't have to go through the rigmarole. There's no need for a rebuttal. Does the council have any final questions? So I kind of, there's no more testimony, so I didn't go through the neutral and opposed and all this stuff. So if nobody wants to speak. So just time for more questions, otherwise we can get the regular session.
Go ahead and adjourn. We'll give it a couple minutes here for our staff to regroup. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this council regular session to order. It is Wednesday, April 6th, time to 7 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and open it up for visitor comments. If you have a comment, please come up, state your name for the record, and keep it to 5 minutes or less. Anybody online, Kathy?
Yes, just a sec.
Jennifer Pugsley, 50 Plaza Square. I attended the last urban renewal meeting and I just had a couple questions regarding the loan. Does the interest accrue from the beginning of the loan? So those 3 years? Are we accruing interest, and then is it paid in form of draws?
Good question.
Or you take the whole lump sum and pay interest the whole time?
No, it's 0.6 interest rate on the amount that's drawn as you draw it.
So it's about 120,000 in interest during those 3 years. And that's included in the loan.
Thank you. Just want to clarify that.
Okay, other online. Okay, we'll go to the announcements and award prizes to Empire Mayor contestants here. Okay. So we had a chance to look them over earlier as a council. And, wonderful presentations. I'm going to start with the 4th and 5th grades. I'm gonna have you come up and get your certificate and hang out up here. Okay, and then we'll start with first place is Ellie Luke. And yeah, we're gonna get pictures. I'm gonna actually get them all up here. Okay, and then so hang out, okay? In that swag bag, we have a bunch of goodies for everybody here. Okay, second place is Everetta Fantis. Yep.
Good job.
You get a swag bag. You got a participation certificate here for Lily Drew. Get a swag bag as well. We have a participation for Morgan Lee. Yep. We loved your posters very much. A lot of them, community gardens were very popular in them.
I like the free library, that was
Yep,
awesome.
yep.
I'll look at that. You wanna?
Come on over here. Yeah. I'm watching them.
All right, everybody look here.
All right, so now go hang out for a little bit and then we have all the first place winners here in a minute. We'll do something here real fast, okay? So go ahead and go sit back down and then we're gonna do the 6th and to 8th graders, okay? I'd like to get the first winners up here. Sit right there, you can just picture the 4, 6 and the great. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the essays. Really good essays. Our first place was Tony Rosen Parsons.
Taylor, good job, Taylor.
Okay, and then our second place winner is Olivia Fantis. We have a participation certificate for Addison's Wells Callow. On Zoom, so she'll be getting her swag bag. Here, so I'll have you hold on to that.
Her sister.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat.
Great job, ladies.
Nice for that Tony. Okay, so now we're going to the digital presentations and they were both very, very good. Our winner is Hayden Stram. And then our second place is Peyton Wells Keller. Hey. With these rest of this council, you can get a picture in the seat.
Okay.
The mayor.
Okay, all right. But I'm gonna let you have the dress over here. I'll sit on this side of you. Yeah.
the gavel a few times.
Everybody look here.
Go ahead and grab that gavel.
Thank you.
Yes, and go ahead and bang it a few times. Whatever you want.
Gotta hit it.
This meeting has been called to order.
Great job. We really appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, come on up here, Taylor. You can have a seat too, because.
Yes.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. We're ready. Thank you. All right, that was very nice.
Yeah, that was very good. I love that was follow along with your essay and hopefully people have had a chance to look them over. I know they've been up and you did a wonderful job. So, yeah. Looking forward, very forward to submitting all these to the state too. Okay, now let's have Ellie come up.
Ellie, I must say, I was really impressed with the colorfulness
Come on up
of your
here.
poster and all of your illustrations. You did a really great job.
Grab that gavel and call it to order, okay? Lift up for your mom. Give her a big smile. There you go. All right.
This is so much more user friendly.
And I really, we all talked about your guys' artwork on them posters and how wonderful a job you guys did. So congratulations, and we look forward to having lunch with you real soon. We'll set a date that works for everybody. Try to set it that works for everybody. So we'll be in contact. Congratulations to number 1, and number 2, and everybody that submitted. It's fun to submit to the state level, and we've had a second place there a couple times. We're gonna get a first place eventually, and this might be the year, so fingers crossed. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Like.
That's the fun part of the job. Deliberations on the plan development zoning overlay in northern Terry, North 8th and 9th Street, North Deer Island Road, North 8th Street, LLC, Concord. So it was not a lot of controversy, that one. It's just an overlay. Now, will the plan development actually come to us, or does that go through, it went through planning or just planning?
That's just the planning commission, yeah, so the subdivision, if it was appealed, and I think, yeah, that was a month ago, so the appeal period has ended.
And the planning commission was definitely all unanimous.
They were unanimous, yeah.
Yeah, there was a very good discussion. Questions, I think, allow some of the testimony or questions we're getting ahead about the actual proposed development rather than the overlay. But as far as the overlay was concerned, no major issues, good discussion. I thought the commissioners did their due diligence and good consideration.
And I agree. I thought it was well presented. And I thought the study was extremely well done and well expressed. Thank our local engineering company for the work on that.
Yeah, I appreciated the care to the wetlands and just the care to the overall community, and I think that the subdivision looks good.
Two things, do we have an idea of what they figure the value of the land is when they open up this piece? Any discussion on?
Yeah, I mean, we don't get into that so much. They did provide some testimony that without this, I mean, as Andrew Nemi mentioned during the public hearing, there was this plan development overlay that made it work. And I kind of mentioned, you know, trying to fit the puzzle pieces in. They've been working on this a long time. They've already sunk a lot of money into just dealing with wetland mitigation. And it's really questionable whether or not it would pencil without the plan development overlay. So at the planning commission's hearing, they said, or suggested that it's still viable with this, but exact figures were not presented.
Another question is when they look at the wetlands, do they worry about migratory birds going in, because those are pretty substantial ponds.
Yeah, that's a good question. I reckon, because the Army Corps of Engineers, a lot of times will consult with US Fish and Wildlife, the Fish and Feathers folks is, you know, they're kind of generically termed. I know that happens on stuff on the river, and so if they felt it was applicable, they would have looked into that. But the thing is, the ponds are being left alone. They're being untouched, and so that standing water, which will be a really cool feature, a backyard feature for adults and kids especially, you know, those will stay and will be able to be used by migratory waterfowl and such.
Well, my impression is looking at the back side of that and getting rid of some of those dirt piles, I couldn't see only 4 or 5 homes in there, but more than $2 a piece because of those ponds. That could be an upscale hole rather than.
I gotcha.
Because those ponds are, as I say, substantial, and it doesn't look like they're gonna fence them in.
No.
Okay, so, as I say, that becomes quite a valuable piece of property if you have that type of feature in your neighborhood, which most neighborhoods don't have.
Yeah, I mean, we've had other subdivisions where people lamented about the lack of open space and loss of wildlife, and don't have that here.
Yeah, I know, as I say, that's some of the questions.
Yeah.
And the overlay really allows me to do that. The overlay doesn't fix the setup.
No, and the overlay, I mean, the overlay, it's a really valuable tool in this kind of situation. Because if we didn't have it, they're dealing with this situation and they're dealing with our rules, and they're like, well, what the heck? We can't make everything work. Well, hey, we got this overlay, and ta-da, you can make it work. Assuming, of course, it's approved by the council.
Somebody like to make a motion?
And the motion, the easy motion would be as recommended by the planning commission, if you want to be less wordy.
I motion that we take the plan development zoning overlay as recommended by the planning commission.
Discussion. Councilor Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
All right, so this will be an ordinance coming to a future council meeting. And I think we're finally done with the public hearings on that, so.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for coming in. Looking forward to seeing what you do with it.
It'll be nice.
Okay, so, we'll get on with it in a minute, but with that. Recommended one. Yeah.
Oh,
Pick up. Hold on a minute. Might need a.
I have a copy, if you need a copy.
I haven't seen it up here, and I don't know. So. Right here, that's gonna be, you're gonna read that here after a while. Okay. Approve and authorize for signature to second amendment to agreement with OPAT for First, or South First Street and Strand Street Road and Utility Extensions Project. 3, revocable license agreement with Soltronox, I said that right? LLC for ATM located at city property at 277 Strand Street. 4, intergovernment agreement to transferable tax increment revenues of the St. Helens urban renewal area to the city of St. Helens to pay a special public works fund. 5, amendment number 1 to IGA with the state of Oregon for disposable of surplus vehicles, heavy equipment, titled trailers and watercrafts. And 6, agreement with Western Display Fireworks for 4th of July.
We approve and or authorized for signature items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as read.
Second.
Discussion?
A motion's been made and seconded to approve and authorize for signature 2 through 6. Discussion, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up the firework display, and I know last time we kind of talked about it, we weren't sure which route we were gonna go as far as setting them off, but when I looked over this, it looks like we are gonna do a barge.
Yeah, so WCP has actually, through working, making some phone calls and working it out, Willamette Concrete, no, that's not it. I'm gonna screw it all up. It's Michael though, Bernard. Yes,
No concrete press.
Wilsonville Concrete Products has offered to barge them in, and Sean, not Sean. When the boat manufacturer or the floating homes is gonna actually let them stop there and load the fireworks, so.
Oh.
The floating homes. Apologize for using it. Sean said, yeah,
You can construct.
yeah, and
Well, that's good to know, because I know having the barge alleviated a lot of the staffing issues and safety issues with using the park and all of that.
and it allows, it frees up the entire island, and it also brings the show closer to the citizens quite a bit, because it'll be parked right in the middle of the channel, just kind of a little bit further down or up than it would normally would be, but it'll still be right in the middle. Yeah, so it worked out. We got really lucky this year. Yep. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve authorize for signatures 2 through 6. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Tilton.
Hi,
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Consent agenda for acceptance. 7, Parks and Trails Commission minutes dated January 10th, 2022. Parks and Recreation Commission minutes dated February 7th, 2022.
I move we accept consent agenda for acceptance items 7 and 8.
second,
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda 7 and 8. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Consent agenda for approval. 9, South County Leadership Collaborative Special Session minutes dated March 3rd, 2022. 10 OLCC license and 11 accounts payable list.
I move we approve consent agenda items 9 through 11 as read.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda for approval 9 through 11. Any discussion? President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Hi,
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, work session items. Work session action items.
Adjustment to the sum.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and read it. And we'll get on to that next time.
Okay, at your April 6, 2022 regular session, staff has requested that the council initiate vacation of certain right of way by motion. The motion would be to initiate public right-of-way vacation proceeding pursuant or S 27-1.130 to vacate 2 street segments. The entire 7th Street right-of-way of South St. Helens addition to St. Helens, Oregon, lying northeast of the Castor Road right-of-way, and the extension of the South 16th Street right-of-way lying south of the east right-of-way within the St. Helens subdivision, St. Helens, Columbia County, Oregon, as dedicated, Columbia County Deed Book 272, page 970. This does not effectuate the vacation.
Oh, that's not the motion. The motion is just what's in bold in between the squiggly lines.
This would be the explanation. Okay, so.
Second, between the squiggly lines.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded to vacate 7th and 16th. Now 7th is not 7th Street for those who are watching. It's actually behind, way across from Johnny's Tavern, behind in there in a weird spot. Yeah, on 16th. So I just want to make that clear as part of the discussion. Any other discussion?
Well, I could read this again.
And this actually will set a public hearing for this process, but this is how we do it as a city. Councilor Martin.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, we have a water leak adjustment that unfortunately the gentleman cracked right on a coupling. I've never seen that. I saw a lot of irrigation repair, the coupling itself actually cut right in half. And staff has recommended that we go ahead and allow them to adjust what would be normal months. And it exceeded the dollar amount that staff has the ability to, and so it's about $2,000. A little bit better, so.
So moved.
Okay. President Moore.
No, I agree with that. Yes.
Okay, Counselor.
Did we get a second?
Wait, yes.
Well, I kind of made it, so I figured I made that.
You made it, okay, then.
I second it.
Second, okay.
Council President Morton.
Yes.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Shelton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm an aye as well. I forgot what I was gonna make a motion about earlier. Oh,
Just to identify the property, it's.
no, I
No,
don't.
the tram.
Yeah, the tram. So the tram will be another action item that we have purchased would be to register it as a slow moving vehicle through the DMV. And then go ahead and follow through with getting the coverage necessary in order to drive it afterwards, which will be a little bit of a process. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to do that. Okay.
Discussion. Definition of slow moving vehicle.
Well, it would be 15 miles an hour. Yes.
But I mean, the question is, why do we have to call it a slow moving vehicle?
They can't go over a certain speed.
It's probably for insurance and liability purposes too. And that it's not ever entering a, a highway situation.
Will it have a license plate on it?
That's a good question.
I'm sure the
No.
DMV will make sure that we're paying for a license.
Yes,
Tags.
It has a category of.
I mean, it's not on the road.
Okay, that's what,
Yeah.
So,
well, heck, can't we just put an old farm triangle on the back and call her good?
We'll probably, that's part of the process, so.
We should be able to.
so it's a legal thing to get this thing
Yes.
covered and all, as compared to, it's not going on Route 30 or anything like that. Okay.
Okay, so, any more discussion? Any more discussion? Council President Martin.
Aye.
Council Topaz.
Aye.
Council Chilton.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, any other action items that we had? Nothing.
The engineering department was asking for general guidance on the sewer concerns, the fee in lieu of
the sanitary
Oh,
sewer
yeah.
collection,
Yeah.
like problem.
So that brings up a little bit more discussion that we have some issues within our city that with our sewer and that in development, and we as a city are trying to figure out how to adjust the SDCs and water rates eventually, but we're discussion on SDCs because our sewer capacity will not be able to meet demand of future growth. It's not good. We have pinch points and unbeknownst to us, the last master sewer plan that was done was 1989. And at that point in time, 4th Street was identified. So we as a council are stuck with what our predecessors had drug their feet on and are now in trying to remedy a $10 million to $15 million just to get it up to future capacity. So so that's why we're discussing this, and we're discussing it in lieu of fee. We talked to Steve Donovan just a little bit, and he said he wasn't sure completely about that, is what I heard him.
Well, Steve's a smart guy. He's been around a long time. He knows he's not an attorney.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to make sure that, always consult your legal counsel because he can provide guidance about things that he has observed over the years. But he does not replicate our city attorney.
So that also being said though, but we also have water, not a bunch of water issues, but storm issues as well. So this is what we're dealing with. And it's kind of like, it's in our plate and we're gonna do all of it the best we can and walk through the process and try to figure out how we're gonna do this. So SDCs was a discussion earlier, and we have a development right now that Comstock that's trying to come in and it would hold that demand, but if we have a catastrophic wind event, we would get, and it overflowed, we'd get a fine from DEQ. We're trying to avoid that. That's it in a nutshell. So, and we're trying to figure out how we pay for sewer upgrades, the water upgrades, the storm upgrades, and project the future growth. None of that was done at all. Very frustrating.
So if you recall, we kind of talked about, there's the SCCs and utility rates, and that's an animal that'll be tackled
Those are two different, yes.
in the future.
Yeah.
In the interim, we know we have, when we make land use decisions, we have to consider about capacity and stuff like that. And so the options we talked about at the work session, do nothing and just cross your fingers. That's on one end. On the other extremity is to delay or disallow development,
Yeah.
which takes a process, takes time to do it. And the other one is an impact fee in lieu of improvements as a condition of land use approval. So it's not all encompassing, but it is a tool, potential tool.
And am I recalling correctly that the issue about the fees in lieu of and the concern that Mr. Donovan had about that from legal standpoint was also tied to whether or not we move ahead with the system development charges, and if we ask system development charges that we can maybe do both, or that we have to do one or the other. Was that part of his concern in terms of looking at the legal interpretation?
We've done both in limited respects as it pertains to transportation. For example, our problem intersection in town, our biggest problem intersection in town is Gable Road US 30. And this is something that I learned when I worked for the city of Cornelius. Walmart came to town. They did a big traffic analysis. Forest Grove was all excited. Cornelius was all excited. And it impacted all these intersections. And Walmart couldn't just redevelop all these intersections. That would have been disproportional to the development. But what they did was calculate a proportional fee based on the amount of additional vehicle trips. So that's something that we've done for some of our larger projects in town where that intersection was a component of the traffic analysis and blew up the intersection. A good example is the apartments on Gable Road. If you mentioned in the SDC, they talked about the PM peak. So that's the PM peak hour in the afternoon between 5 and 6, somewhere like that, where that's your most traffic in the evening. And that's been one of the main problems at that intersection is a worsening PM peak. And so for a variety of projects that have been included that has increased that PM peak problem, we've required a fee proportional to that increase related to the projects identified in our adopted plans as a condition of approval. So this would be similar to that. We'd have to figure out how to calculate it, and that would be an exercise with engineering. But at this point, it's a question of whether or not you would want us to do that, or if you do nothing in regards to this, that just means that you're relying exclusively on your system development and utility charges to make up for the issue. So this fee can be in addition to the system development charge. Now, it's always subject to challenge. And it only applies to things with the land use decision, not to building permits. And so it's imperfect from a comprehensive standpoint, but it is a tool. And so that's what we were looking for guidance on in the immediacy. Now that we're aware of this issue, when we take in applications and we have to make findings about capacity, well, do we just say, well, the system development charges will take care of it, we'll cross our fingers, we don't have a problem? Or do we impose a condition for a proportional charge for someone who wants to utilize one of these deficient collection systems?
The only thing that would make sense to me is to put the fee and make sure that the money from that fee would be going to a pot to fix the problems. That would be the only reason why I would vote in favor of that, doing that. Is that possible?
Yeah, so using the traffic impact fee as an example.
That.
So we talk to finance and say, okay, we need a specific account number for this so it doesn't get lost in the black hole.
Right.
If it got lost in the black hole, that would be inappropriate and people would have a right to be PO'd. So that's us working with finance.
And I just wanted to people to know, it's not just a $15 million project. It's actually beyond that. Those are 3 pinch points that we became aware of. And in 1989, that was actually the year Jessica was born. She divulged that.
Every 3 years.
It actually was the last time our sewer was updated, and now we have got this presented with this, and the whole Pittsburgh Road coming down, Elk Ridge, Phase 7, Comstock. Really a lot of future development is being catastrophic to the system if we continue to do nothing.
Potentially catastrophic.
Potentially catastrophic, yes, but
Not if we,
I believe them. In 1989, they said that. 1989, they said 4th Street needed to be upgraded. I believe the people that presented it earlier about the 3 points. 15 million, I mean, we did our best. Really, it's hands or butts. We borrow from DEQ, but we have to have a way of paying for it. So, I don't know what do you come up with? I mean,
We have a couple of problems that we can delineate. Now, if we were building new, there's one clear pathway of doing it. When we're repairing it, a whole bunch of complications come in. So basically, we have a problem and we've got to determine which group of ways we pay for it. Or what combination. And there's no clear picture, well, there's a clear picture that repair can't be from the CDC. But there's a whole bunch of other ways of paying, which we have to find out.
The finance director should be here at this point and give us that direction.
well, and it has to pay for itself.
Right.
That's where our predecessors went wrong. They didn't make it pay for itself. And we got a lot of it done through Boise and the Big Mills and West Fisher, not West, but Fisher Construction did a lot of work for the city back in the day. I mean, I remember them blasting as a kid. You know, and that's like being next to Matt's and those local contractors and the city itself doing a lot of the work too, back in the day. Now we're at a point where, again, two mayors ago, that was updated and 4th Street was a vitally undersized. Had nothing to do with the I&I project. I just want to state that for the subject back in 2011, when they sealed the pipe to there.
The problem is we got a problem that has a number of facets we're gonna have to pay for. There's no easy way to pay for it.
So what we found out through our SDCs earlier is that reason we have really good growth here and people are discovering us is because our SDCs are way under what other people's are by Scappoose by $5,000. And we need to adjust up to that. And we also have to adjust our water rate, probably $60 over 5 years. Water, sewer, storm. $60 a bill in cycle over 5 years, so that's $12 a year. Not very much fun to pass that along to citizens and, but here we are, and we need to do something about the future growth now, so we can at least grab some money. I don't care if it's $2,000 a lot. You know? And if it's however your projections are, would be over like a bigger building, like a grocery outlet or Popeyes, you know, that has a lot of people traveling to and from the storm and the whole, we have to do something. That's what I know. And I still have a vacant lot and I will be paying these increases. I will probably not be there yet. So this is a reflection of what I will be paying as well. For anybody who wants to run at me.
We'll just blame you right up now, it's easier. The situation is,
I can't repeat that. I need glasses.
we grew basically further and faster than we expected. We made some mistakes and now the mistakes can come and bite us because sewer overflows. I mean, it isn't like, well, it wasn't that bad type of situation. You just gotta do something and it's gonna be mean, well, anyway we go.
I need help because I did get a call from, she's been talking to staff, Jeannie Marnie. And I got a call and I did not talk to her, but she was wondering how we made out and wanting to know because she's trying to sell the property to a developer who's like, if I can't get sewer, I'm not buying your property. So what did we come up with there? I mean, are we gonna allow growth still? Because I could not literally, I didn't answer it because I couldn't answer from our discussion earlier.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, if we were going to impose a stoppage or delay of development, there's a special process we have to go through.
Which nobody I don't want. So
Yeah, and the read from earlier was the council was, no, we don't want to do that. Now, of course, you may have changed your mind in the last few hours. So let's eliminate the easy decisions. Is anybody in favor of delaying or halting development? That would be something like with a moratorium or something like that. It would be an exercise, a public hearing, that would be one of those public hearings probably. But so is anybody even want to consider that option?
No, I don't.
I don't think it's appropriate at this time.
Okay. So that leaves, do we just do nothing and say, well, ultimately, the system development charge and user rate decisions will take care of it. We don't want to impose additional stuff. So that's one option. The other one is for staff to consider impact fees in lieu of as a condition of land use approval.
Yes, I would like to do that because here's the deal is we can't use those SDC monies for the existing infrastructure, the $15 million that we're talking about.
Only new stuff.
SDCs can only be put on new stuff. We are stuck here, our hands are tied, trying to figure out. And I'm really kind of livid about the future people who sat on this and never were there, or staff who was not. I mean, we knew about forestry, but I would have been.
I'm in favor of doing the in lieu fee with the conditions that I mentioned earlier, which is knowing where the money's going, seeing projections and making sure that the money's going into a pot that is gonna work in some, shape or form to fix the problems. Because I think that is the only way that we do that properly with justifying having my opinion.
And if it's like 1,000 or 500 per site, because at least we'll be able to take that pool of money and use it separately from SDC eligible.
Yeah, so we still have to be careful, it can't be 50,000 a lot.
So figure out a dollar amount that feels comfortable, that, remember, we are serving these people out here and the builders are already gonna be upset about the SDC increase. We have to be able to justify it, we have to be. And when that hasn't happened, that has not happened, by the way, the SDCs, there'll be a public hearing on all that. But we are definitely, that's where we're headed.
And I'm motivated because dealing with appeals isn't very fun, so,
Yep.
We strive to avoid appeals.
Yes,
And so we always have to tap dance around that kind of.
so I'd like to make a motion that we direct
Can I
staff.
ask Jacob one other
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Are there any other things that staff could do to figure out how to raise money for this project? Or are we at our limit already as far as ideas?
Other than stealing the pop cans from Lisa's band fund?
Yes, that's correct.
I thought that we mentioned that John had been diligently looking at grants and other things like
There
that.
you go.
And we continue to do that.
The EQ
Would
loan.
that be added to it or are we stuck without?
No,
it?
we're gonna do
Yeah,
that.
it was just,
Okay.
it's another piece. You're creating Thanksgiving dinner and this fee in lieu of is the peas, but we could still have the turkey and the potatoes for this work.
And not only that, the critical thing about this is I wanna be a proactive mayor who's looking at pushing water and sewer towards Scappoose. And looking out in our, we have to be smart about our growth. I don't wanna grow too big, too fast, but we need to start actually looking at that. And we're getting ready to redo their sewer. We've talked about repurposing our sewer. Conversations have to start happening soon between the two cities, and I've tried. But at some point, we need to rally the cages or rally the, start on the fist and start getting the media involved, start putting it on Facebook. We're only 8 miles apart.
Well, as far as the storm and water issues, we've kicked the can far enough down the road. So I think it's time that we pick the can up and do the work that needs to be done.
Yep.
Jacob, going to what the mayor said, there's a bunch of ground between us and St. Helens that isn't in anything, it's outside our development area. And let's say they want to join our sewer system, what can we ask them to do financially that's different than ours? Can we ask them for a higher rate or?
I don't know.
So when I was talking about that, it's just an idea, if you could actually meter both sides and figure out your own rates, and you just pay for the treatment part of it.
But I was thinking like in Warren,
Yeah.
you know, can we, you know, we have a rate, let's say our rate is 2, can we ask them to do a 4? Or, you know,
I think so. I mean, right now, if you're outside of city limits and you're being billed for a city utility, the rate is different. I think it's twice as much, if I remember
It
correctly.
is,
And then
it
the
is.
rate to Columbia City is different. I don't know how much different, but. So I would assume based on those examples that.
Okay, so that-
Benefits, yeah.
okay. So that's another way to help pay for this. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have some, I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to actually look at the envelope of fee and work with getting them figuring it out, presenting it to us. And also reaching out to our legal staff to, first inquire, make sure that they're not wasting their time.
Second, as stated,
Good?
been moved in.
Okay.
Been
Council
moved in
President
second.
Martin.
Aye.
Council Topaz?
Aye.
Council Chilton?
Hi.
Council Berkeley? And I'm an aye as well. Okay, I don't think we have any other things. What do I have to report? Actually, Council.
Yeah,
you There's no doubt.
Word, Mayor.
No more comebacks.
Yeah.
I'm sure Doug will find
I'll find
one
out.
more.
Yeah.
Got something.
Without a doubt. I like going, yeah, please do. Then Coyote talked to me and she requested that I bring this to the council, that they need a replacement for Sue Nelson that would sit on the Traffic Safety Commission. One would come from this municipality, which was Sue Nelson, so and she just requested that because she is either the commissioner of that or head of that group, and I got her phone call. I got her. So if anyone on the staff could step forward to do that, or anyone off the council, it would be a volunteer position, then I think their board meets, I didn't have an opportunity to get back to Lynn, but this is just recent. Yeah. Last night, I saw that. I thought, I'll bring it to the council right away. So we can mull that over a bit.
Is there any requirement for the person or just?
I was curious.
No requirements at all. I think Sue was as an engineer, was one of the most obvious picks.
I was gonna say, well, do you have to have an engineer or was it just a person?
Oh, no,
assuming
they're-
an engineer?
I think they're mostly people at large,
Okay,
but one from this municipality, she suggested was something that needed to be filled, and I don't know if that's in our charter or what. It sounds like it was. So I don't think that's an action item at this point. It could be if someone would like to volunteer for that. Maybe we
A
can
lot of
take-
irons in the fire right now.
Yeah, maybe we can pick it up next meeting, and I can get back to Lynn and ask her.
Ask her a little more information. There.
Yeah. I had a great tour of the food bank. It was wonderful. I've never seen such an amazing upscale renovation. My heavens. It's amazing. Yeah, cooking kitchen, all of those kinds of things so that they can help people out in terms of preparing foods, those kinds of things. And very innovative, clean, beautiful space. Should be able to serve the community for a long period of time, very sustainable. Everything makes sense in terms of dropping food off, picking it up, individuals coming in to obtain food, it's remarkable. The facility should be open to the public in June. And it's very, very close to being finished and trying to get staff oriented to the operations there before obviously they open. So that's a wonderful asset for our community, but especially where it is now and the location. It's kind of on the downside of Holton in a sense, not really out by the highway or whatever. And so I think it gives our uptown Holton area a big shot in the arm. I was very impressed. Casey Wheeler, who is mayor of Columbia City, was their director. And so with him and a fellow board member, Ken Gates, who actually initiated that whole plan, who has spearheaded that issue years ago. And it was very informative and I felt privileged to go through it to see it at this point. I suggested to them that they open it up to public tours when they're getting close. So, I alluded to the last two meetings to our parks master plan. And I found really good news today that we already have a master plan in place. And you heard from Stephen today, as he said, is probably one of the most impressive documents he's seen around the state, the way it is now. He says, this master plan is so impressive. I haven't seen anything like it. And there are cities around a state that pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for consultants to do a master plan. That means that they have to come into our city, take a look around, figure out what's going on. And the person who put that together is sitting at the end of this board table, and that's Jen Dimshow. And Jen, could you tell us how that happened and what group you were with when you started that and when the initiation of that began and you took it on as a project? What's the name of the group that you were affiliated with?
I mean, it was John also that applied for the program, but it's the Rare AmeriCorps program.
That's it.
It's a partnership with the University of Oregon and AmeriCorps, which is a federal program. It's kind of like Peace Corps, but national here instead of abroad.
And you authored that, and we said, we want this lady on our staff. And we acknowledged your fine work, and it's sustainable at this point. The point that I'm trying to make is we don't need to do anything with our master plan. We can have our staff make amendments to our master plan. Everything is in place. So if we do redo our master plan, be prepared to ask the city for a couple $100,000 or ask the city for $200,000 that will pay a consultant to come in and do that. We can simply make upgrades and amendments to the master plan, and that seems to be the best way. I talked to Shauna today, and she says, oh, by far that's the best because we're so far behind on even looking at the projects that were identified in a master plan that we do. But anything that we would like to do, we can simply make amendments to what's there already.
You're talking about the Parks Master Plan?
The Parks Master Plan.
Didn't we already pull the trigger on getting?
We went out for RFQs twice and then kind of came back with lackluster.
Okay.
uh,
And so now you're proposing that maybe
Just
we.
slow the roll and
Yeah, I mean, it's
Not
almost senseless with if I don't know if I can get some master plans for you to look through. If you've never looked through the Parks Master Plan, They're extremely sustainable. Everything's in place. So I just see that amendments will work for now for the next several years. And then plus the fact, Sean and I talked about, the budget process. We're going to have a budget for any capital outlay projects. Most of the urban trail will be going through pretty much the public works because it's on public right of way. It does go through parks in some places, so there can be a correlation between that, putting up informational signs and kiosks in each park and that kind of thing. So that's it for capital outlay for our projects. What we want to do, everything else is maintenance. And it seems to me like it'd be a terrible waste of money at this point. I think our parks person feels the same way, and I think that the staff feels the same way as well as going out for a master plan at this point. It's already done. That's the way I see it, and it's a remarkable document that and I think it should be made more accessible to the public on hard copy rather, and it is already in our website. So anyone who would like to look through our park master plan and 70 pages of very thorough work that's very well researched, it's there. So I want to thank our staff for putting that together, and I have great reliance on our staff to continue to make amendments through our Parks Commission and through this council to where we want to go with our parks. That's it for me.
Good.
In a number of things. One thing I'm following up what the mayor said. He was talking about advertising, patting ourselves on the back, and a little better PR. And this, about a week and a half ago, I was listening to the radio and they were talking about how Intel is really gonna hurt 4 counties because of what it's doing and it's changing. And Columbia County wasn't mentioned in the effect of Intel. Somehow we gotta get in that loop, because obviously they affect us. The other thing that this came out from the Portland Harbor, and also people who are worried about irrigation on Sovi's Island because Multnomah Channel water quality, they've been reevaluating it, and mercury seems to be a new problem or the new regulations. And my question there was, since we can pump water out of the channel and sell it, and one of the thoughts was selling it for irrigation, do we have a good water analysis of what we can pump out? So if someone says, well, we'd like your water, does it meet our qualifications? I think that should be done. Now,
That report.
I'll dig it. It was done for the Sovi's Island group. I've got it.
Well, yeah, it could be somebody just raised their hand and.
It's also the EPA has seen it too.
Well, if the EPA is involved, then the municipalities would be contacted and be.
As I say, this was again mainly for farmland, and it seemed to have missed. We know the Portland Harbor is somewhat polluted. We have numbers, but its value of using that water was, that was the question, okay.
Okay, anyway, I just wanted.
Okay. Then, right now, and this is public information, the city of St. Helens legal group is in appeals process down in Salem with the course of litigation between Boise, Cascade, and ourselves because of the marijuana. And I started wondering, how much money have we put into the marijuana operation from our legal point of view? That goes all the way back to when we first petitioned back in 2017, the lawyers for the first lease to buy, the lawyer course for the Peterson lawsuit. Then we have another contract, again, but which was done with lawyers. I'd like to know how much money we spent on trying to sell that marijuana property. Obviously, do we have a cost for when we try to petition it from the county? Because we got engineering costs from AKS when they were doing it. We've got the appeals course. We put a roadway into that. How much money have we put in from these legal costs and how much has we gotten back in rent? Then I have another question that was asked to me by a couple of food places. If the next pandemic comes through, do we have a battle plan for how we restart? Or will we be told by the state what to do? I talked to Rick today. We got people out there fishing. Should our tourism group be advertising, we got fishing going on and how fantastic this season is and whatever, we got boat landings as a reason to come to St. Helens.
Can you bring back the dome of fish with the
Yeah.
story time?
Absolutely.
The story time?
And the last thing I have is I received a survey for broadband. And the survey was sent out by Matt Brown, Deputy City Administrator, St. Helens. When did the council change his title, Finance Director, to Deputy City Administrator?
Where did you get that?
A week and a half ago.
Well, I did notice that emails that kind of a legacy title on there. The council doesn't necessarily change those.
As they said, and I got the second one, why I didn't reply. I just wondered when the title sheet, that's quite a big survey thing that I got to the email, came to my business. Did not come to me as a council, came to my business.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Councilor Chilton?
So as you guys know, softball and baseball is underway, so I've been spending a lot of time at Campbell and the Boise softball fields. And so it's exciting to see the community kind of get back in the swing of that, and seeing Little League at the Moose Lodge. All the kids excited about,
Spring is here.
yeah, exactly, so that's been really exciting. And then I recently went to the Botanical Gardens and did a little nature walk with my kiddos, and that was fun. It'd been a while since I'd been there, so it was beautiful, as always. And then I attended the Lipstick meeting last week, which is the law enforcement commission for the county, and that was my first time attending it. And it was very informative. We had some judges there and the DA's office and police and sheriff's department. So I'm really looking forward to becoming a part of that commission and addressing law enforcement needs at a county level. Speaking of that, Judge Grove was there, and for anybody in the community, Judge Grove is getting ready to retire. And at the end of the month, so I just, I've been honored to get to know Judge Grove in my work life with the behavioral health courts. And he's been just a huge supporter of all people in the community. So I'm hoping that people come together and, wish him a farewell. He's done our county a huge service, so.
I think there's a retirement party, the 29th
29th of April, yep,
in the park right here.
yeah. So anyone who wants to say farewell to Judge Grove as he exits, and we get some new blood in there. Very excited and thankful for everything he's done for the community and the people that live here, so. We continue to work with the riverfront development, and I'm very excited about some of the proposals that are coming our way and just getting to see our ideas really brought to life, and very excited about that and hopeful for community involvement in that. And then, as you guys heard a little bit, we have upcoming budget discussions. And I wanted to just put it out there that I'm open to conversations. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. I'm open to discussing some of those issues and answering questions. There's a lot of information, And with that, I wanted to just advise anyone who has questions about some of the things that, Mayor Scholl has brought up, to go back and watch today's work session. There was a lot of information put in there about the problems that we're seeing with storm and water, and I really appreciate those presentations that we had and just the transparency from our team, because this is something that we have to deal with. And so if you have any questions about that and want more information on that, please go back and watch today's work session. That's all I have.
All right. Council Berkeley.
I want to echo what Councilor Chilton said about the sewer, storm and water issues. As we look at system development charges, which are for new growth. Which are one avenue of financing, helping to finance those things. But the larger picture is just the needing to maintain, operate, replace our current system. And we are going to be facing some serious issues, and want to assure citizens all of this is public on the record. We're basing these things on 3 master plans that have been completed within the last half a year or so that are available. I'm sure people will not want to wade through the hundreds of pages in each of those, but each of those reports does contain, or we have available, what do you call them, the executive summaries that present this. This is all there, but this is something that we are not going to be able to put off if we want to continue to have a high quality of life and protect the safety and health of our environment and our citizens. So I just hope people will take the opportunity to look at these as best they can, and know that as we discuss this isn't just something that we're wanting to do because we want to increase fees. We have some very important and necessary decisions to make. I spent my spring break, my wife and I, visiting our daughter in New York City after spending 7 full days in the south of Manhattan. You will not believe how, it was a wonderful experience. But thank goodness for St. Helens. Thank goodness for Columbia County. What we do enjoy and have here, and being members of this community. So actually, there are a few things I want to share with Jenny and possibly and Jacob and maybe some of our crew as we're looking along the riverfront development. There's actually some cool stuff that New York City has done along the Hudson River Greenway, and just some little elements. So no, I am not suggesting high rises in on the Vineyard property. Lord knows how much time we spent looking up while we were in New York City. But anyway, some interesting ideas that I will be passing on, just that might be nice little tweaks, including Council Morton, some really neat kinetic sculptures and public art that perhaps could be incorporated into the Riverwalk design. So yeah, a great week in New York City. It's good to be home. We'll continue to participate in the CERT training, the Community Emergency Response Team training, some wonderful information about the importance of being prepared for any kind of disaster, natural disaster, and other threats. So I'll keep coming back to reporting on some of that. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend the annual appreciation reception for our boards and volunteers because it coincides with the training. If you miss a training, you have to wait another year until they offer the training to do that particular element and get your certificate. Tomorrow, we're excited because we're going to be going to the Lee Broadbent Center, and we're going to get to use fire extinguishers and get some training from the fire department personnel. And I was very impressed by the leadership with the fire department as they've been giving presentations about the needs in our community, about not only St. Helens, but how we'll, as a county, need to be pulling together in response to any of these types of emergencies. Let's see. I attended the St. Helens Senior High School ceremonial groundbreaking a couple of weeks ago, and had a chance to hobnob with architects, developers, and construction people. I was passing out my card and to these folks, and to a human. Not to a man, but to a human. Every one of the people involved had great things to say about our city staff, our especially our planning and building departments, and how appreciative they are of the work that we're doing that have to get this high school going. And you think about it, so much attention is down here on the riverfront, but great things going on, and we're going to have a beautiful new high school that is going to be something proud of, and that's neat how it's coinciding with the other development that we are doing as a city. And finally got joined a couple of work parties at Nob Hill Nature Park. They were over, I'd say, between the morning session, which focused on Fifth Street Trail or the Fifth Street Trail improvements, and the afternoon session, which focused on the main park itself. Over 50 folks, all told, and including a lot of scouts, which was good to see. Good to see the mix of ages involved in all that. So there we are.
For reporting on that, that's great.
Can I go back just a minute?
I knew it, see, I called it.
It wouldn't be right.
You go first,
This is
Councilman.
why I write things down.
I mentioned about request to try to find out what all of our fees for trying to sell the property.
Yes.
Can we have some council request to Matt to generate the spreadsheet of all those fees that are going since 2017?
I think I mean, I heard what you were saying. It's probably go in and try to get the numbers yourself. The AKS, the surveying is really something we did as a luxury, or not a luxury, as a benefit to the port to put that road through there, and we had a parcelization off that chunk, but we also did put a 50-foot road through there that would allow the port to. So there's a lot of different moving parts that you could say were mill or weren't mill, that were dealt with the marijuana place, but didn't. They actually dealt with the city trying to figure out how to develop
Yeah, I
property.
agree with it. They also did a bunch of work for surveying just for that property.
So I don't know how you go about figuring all that out.
Go write it down and,
I don't know.
but we ought to find out how much money we've put in trying to sell that property. Because it may be, our lawyers aren't cheap. And it may be that it's costing us more to sell it than what we're getting for it. So how do we direct it, or do we direct it?
I believe you could even just ask. I don't know if we need to do this council, but for your speak with Matt. And that's.
I want an official statement.
Well,
Well, yes.
okay. Well, through.
Anyway,
Make the request.
So,
Bring it up next work session.
okay, we can do that.
yeah, I'll try to figure more information out for that, to give you a ballpark idea.
That's what we're looking for. Because when we got hit with the judge saying,
When we get lawsuits, they're out of our control, so.
but it still costs us.
That lawsuit cost us $1.5 million, we know it off the beginning, because we were gonna get $3 million for the property.
Okay. time for you to hit the wall, or you gonna have.
You guys will go back too.
Okay.
Patrick, I want to thank you for reporting on Knott Hill Nature Park. That was going to be one of my routines. Then I knew you were there. I got reports back that you were there doing stuff. Thank you for reporting it. But I want to report on one thing that was very extremely meaningful to me personally, and deals with this council as well as other boards that I serve on. I went through a 2-day DEI training. I think most people who are involved in communication problems understand what DEI is. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's a nationwide kind of process that goes along with involving diversity on boards on any organization, making certain that each individual is not equal or equity. With equity, it means that they're served responsibly. Equal means that everyone gets the same. Equity means that there are adjustments made so that everyone has the same opportunity, if that makes sense. And inclusion means beyond anything that all are included. And that was, I mean, it was so in-depth and it involved everyone across the nation. And I thought that that was one of the most interesting workshops that I attended in some time. Anyway, thought I'd bring that to the council. It doesn't have to be as intense as 2 days, but it can be something that could be within a half hour or an hour, it can be explained very simply. But anyway, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Something that's, I think, is extremely important in all groups.
Good. Thank you, Doug. All right, so yeah, nice to see the mayor. If our mayor contestants here tonight, that was a fun part of the meeting tonight. I'm gonna do that often enough, just have fun here. Times it's policy setting and just the grind and what do you mean we don't have money for that? I've got an idea. What do you need? Let's do this. And no, we have to go through the process. So again, congratulations to all of them. Look forward to having lunch with them. And right here I have Citizens Day in the park stuff, and I would like to ask the council if they would like to help out with going to businesses, and I have donation slips here. And I'm gonna read off the businesses here that I've helped out years and see if who would wanna go to where and help out with the ask. But we know that Safeway actually already reached out to us and are we waiting on that confirmation?
No, we just
Okay.
received confirmation.
They're actually donating $1,000 towards our Citizens Day in the Park, so, yeah. So, again, St. Helens IGA, Councilor wanted to go there, I have it here, I'm just gonna read down the list. Listen to it, maybe jot down if you guys wanna go to this business, all right? St. Helens Market Fresh, Sunshine Pizza, Safeway, Skinny's Chubbs, Stan's Refrigeration, Walmart, Red Schwab, Napa Auto Parts, Dog's Rental, Chef's Store, Cash and Carry,
Yeah.
Grocery Outlet, that is a new one, actually. St. Helens Market Fresh, which we already had on there.
It's on the back. Those are all the same for all counselors.
Oh, okay, so these are for you to have, oh. Each. Lisa sent me up here, okay?
I'm pretty sure I read an email or something from
Which
Lisa.
I-
Yeah, I read.
No, I saw, no, I was
Read it.
busy with other things, Lisa. Hadn't gotten back to it yet.
So, we have the list here, like It's no longer Josh, Josh is the regional manager, he's actually
Hmm.
doing multiple stores. So I will get the name of the acting, so I guess I'll do IGA.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna do that, you
I'll
might
do
as well.
IGA. So, would anybody like to go talk to Lane? At Skinny's. His office is off to the side there. Okay,
I just talked to Diane Dillard. I see her on the back with Dillard's Mortgage.
yeah,
If I can get a number of what we requested from her. and-
That was one, a few of them towards the bottom are new.
Okay,
They might just not have anything.
right, we'd like to go to Stan.
We just bought a fridge for them and stand.
Then Russell at Walmart, actually, if somebody's doing this one, needs to go out and make sure that Russell is still the acting manager, but you have to get multiple months starting for April, May, and June, because they can only do a X amount of donations. Not going through a big process. Can I take that one as well? I'll take two, okay, but. I'm gonna talk to Dave, rental store, ask him about tables and chairs stuff.
Sure. Remind Dave about Marshall Street when you do that. Doug.
Yeah.
Remind him about what?
Marshall Street.
Who wants to do grocery outlet, Rick and Katie?
I can do grocery outlet.
Okay.
Yeah. You're the new owners, so. And I can do Les Schwab. It looks like we're waiting to find out status on Highway 30.
Yeah.
Cruisers, yes.
Cruisers last year took care of all that, so they might again.
Okay, will you just let me know?
Yeah,
If they don't, then I'll pull them up.
okay.
Comfort Topaz, do you want to hit Dollar Tree? Anytime you're going out that way?
Same way across town though.
Stan's Dollar Tree, kind of, we're in that section. Scappi's Bagel,
We already have letters and everything.
yes.
Why does it have your name on it though? It's supposed to have my name.
Well, it's, I don't know.
If anybody wants it changed, I can change it. It just
Oh,
used
yeah.
to be the mayor that did all of this.
You wanna do, Council Buckley, do you wanna do that one?
Sure, Scappa's Bagel.
Yes. Starbucks, Doug? Anybody frequent Starbucks? Okay. Pacific Stainless? Yeah, you can get one for that. Yeah, we'll Pete Forsyth help you out on that one. Industrial Service, Keith Forsyth. Venture, Scappies Bay,
I can do that.
Diane Dillard,
Yeah, she's fine.
I'll do Brad Hendrickson. Unless you'd like to.
I'll do it.
Okay. All right, I got by chief, I only have to do a couple of them. So
Your party.
again,
It has your
June 20
name on it
June
too.
25th. Well, that's a good thing. I think to get people active and out in the parks and enjoy that day and have a nice barbecue, and it's our largest park. And whatever anybody can think of between now and then that they want to add to or help out, it's our event. So,
And if you could let me know once you have confirmation, that way I can make a note of it in case we need to go buy things.
Are you starting, have we started the planning with like fauna and stuff like we did last year?
Yeah, we
Can
had
you include me on that so I can come and help and?
sure, yeah.
Rick, has the National Guard been contacted?
no, I tried contacting them this year.
Actually,
They're already contacted. We had a list of, we've contacted about 100.
That's the thing is, they're so good at, I'm so good at delegating that staff just,
We're keeping the website updated on the Citizens League in the park, so Crystal's got that updated, so as soon as we get sponsors and donors, we put them on there.
so remember, we did no vendor fee, so any businesses or any food carts or whatever that wanna come and maybe you just hand out a table and hand out a coupon. Come check out my truck for today for $5 off, or tomorrow, or next week.
Our
Spends are almost full. I
They
did
are
want to
almost
say
full?
that, so we have about 40 spots right now that are,
Perfect, that's
Wow.
good. That's
We're
good.
aiming for 50,
Wow.
but if you want to participate as a vendor, you need to register right away.
Yes. Yes, I did make that
I
clear.
was just thinking that it could be a sales pitch for some of these people we're gonna talk to. You know, I'm thinking like grocery outlet, new business, they might wanna,
Yeah, definitely if they're gonna be a donator, we will fit them in.
Yes.
okay, all right, good to know.
That's a rental shop.
Don and his wife.
Okay, I'm gonna get, anyone who wants to flip burgers with me, chef's hats,
Oof,
okay,
that's
apron.
another thing.
Are you
Listen,
flipping burgers
listen,
this year?
listen to how they delegated. Wait,
Break
wait,
it
wait,
last year.
listen, we're gonna still be able to do this, but listen.
Oh no, what did you do?
Sunshine Pizza is going to do all the barbecuing for us.
Darn.
We don't have a food handler's permit, so they're gonna take care of that, but you guys will be able to serve. So that way you're having direct communication and you're face to face with your citizens. They'll help serve and you don't have to be behind the barbecue.
That we need a tuxedo and.
Good, your burgers were a little stressful last night, I was like, Casey.
Towel across your sleeve there. Make sure you have the towel on your arm.
Got it. Yeah.
So it'll be a good time, you know, look forward to having a little bit of live music. Do we have the decade set for again?
Yes.
And the car show is happening again? Oh.
They did confirm?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, shoot, I got sidetracked. With the citizens today. Been fishing a lot lately, I'm trying to think of what's going on. Get out there, actually the river closed today, but the slough's open, there are a few fish coming through. I just, eye opener today, our council meeting is, we have known, the master plans unbeknownst to us, and like Patrick said, we just found out, you know, on some of these, 6 months ago on the two. The sewer, we're just kind of like, okay, it seemed like much time, but then it's like, wait a minute, it's catastrophic, and we just had our water updated today, and we have to do some work there. One of the least problems we have versus our storm and our sewer, so, but there's still issues there. So, it's one of those things, it is what it is, and we're gonna get through it. Because we'll have to, because DEQ, if we don't do anything, will eventually just find us into doing something. So I'd really be looking forward with that. Yeah. I don't know. I love this time of year. It's a crazy time of year for me. My own landscape business, being there and trying to fish. Very
You give up
difficult.
all that sleeping business.
It's very
Yeah, it's
difficult. I almost declared a state of emergency today. I just called this whole thing off just because of the weather. But no, all joking aside, we have some serious issues that we're gonna have to tackle. The waterfront moving forward, the urban renewal, getting that funding going. And being aware of the funding mechanism, being able to explain it to citizens is vitally important to each and every one of us. Because we're gonna be on the front lines and trying to stick to that plan right there as we move forward, and look forward to getting that subcommittee together and reviewing some RFQs. We have 2 RFQs. That is a request for qualification for anybody watching. And we have put together a good review committee on that, and those are the big ticket items that are slow grind, and it's been going on for quite some time, my bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a long time. So that's all I got, rambling, so. we're adjourned.